Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. How are you all doing? Yes, Quinton, we have missed you. We have missed you. Welcome back, sir. Hello to everyone in the chat. We've got a lot to get through today. I've got probably just under an hour and a half, and then I've got to go and do one of my boys' parents' evenings. You know, the thing where you go in and the teacher tells you if your kid's good or bad? Yeah, we got one of those. I mean, the kid's 3, so you know, that's going to be interesting. But oh, look, Popinda. Popinda has graced us with her presence once again. Hello, Poppy darling. Reese, Dilshan, Aditya, Graphic Tricks. What a lovely community you've got here. I do love our streams. We do have a giggle, don't we? Love those teacher meetings. I know. I mean, you know, he's a 3-year-old, so you know, I'm kind of anticipating what they're going to say. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'll be surprised, but you know, he's really good with the blocks and his letters and numbers, and they're great. And Mike Phelps, Mike, welcome. Oh no, meetings. Ah, no. My sympathies to you, sir. Unless it's a fun meeting. Fun meetings with like creative people and ideas are okay, but you know, like meetings are just nope. 9, 6, and 4 for me. So those meetings are super all over the place. Wow. Oh, that's a nice spread of ages there. A few years between each. Poppy would like another one. I'd like another one as well, to be honest. We've got 2. It'd be fun to have one more. Well, I mean, I say fun, but yeah, no, it'd be good. It'd be good to have another one. Kids are amazing. They really are. Yeah, Mike, slay those meetings. Sorry guys, got to cancel the meeting. There's this stream, this guy Ginger, you know, meetings deprioritized. You've been warned. Yeah. 3 is crazy. Oh, what? Crazier than 2? I suppose, yeah, when you've got 2 parents and 2 kids, it's kind of like, you know, you can both kind of take one, but then it's like, I don't know, who manages the 3rd child? maybe if my eldest gets a bit older and then they can raise each other. Yeah, that could work. Like a conga line of children. Anyway, right, we've got loads to get through. I'm sat here waffling on. And quite a mix today, actually. Let me find the folder first. That would always help, wouldn't it? Stream. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to try and go through these a bit quicker than normal just because I've got so much to get through and I want to open up submissions again. Hopefully at some point later this week. I know everyone wants to kind of send their work in, which is amazing, but it means I've got to get through some stuff quicker. So let's crack on. Oh, I'm going to start with... Well, we're going to start with the thumbnail. If you've joined these streams regularly, you'll probably recognize this style. None other than Dilshan, also known as Max Art in the chat. And to be frank, I absolutely love his style. It's just so awesome. And it's always cool seeing these as well. And this is actually a great way to create this type of stuff. When you see these kind of raw cutouts of each image and they're just kind of like plonked in the right place. This is a really good way to actually create this type of work, because what you're doing is you're putting the focus on the composition and the scene, like the real solid foundation of the art piece, before getting into all the crazy retouching. What I've done in the past is I'll kind of add one thing, retouch it, add another thing, but then that thing's got to cast a light from the other thing. And I've basically tried to sort of skip the composition bit, and it's kind of bit me in the ass later on, because then I'm just adding things in and I've got to go and edit all of the shadows and lighting on the stuff that's already in the scene as I'm piling more into the scene. And yeah, so this is a really good way to do it. Plan your scene, plan what's going to be in it. And yeah, we've got a couple of versions here. We've got version uno without the books, and then we've got version dos with all these kind of flaming pages flying everywhere. And I love this because, I mean, apart from the fact it looks awesome, I love this kind of image of the phoenix. That's pretty sick. But I love the fact that with this one here, there's just so much like energy and movement and drama. Things are just exploding all over the place. And she's just kind of sat there casually, you know, just chilling. Got a book there, just having a read. And there's a phoenix rising up from the chair and burning all the books around her. So it's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, I love these swooshes as well, the way they kind of link in with the phoenix. And the use of motion blur as well, particularly towards the edge. I do love that. And we've got a bit up here as well. Yeah, as that fire's kind of ripping through. I guess it'd be good to kind of carry that motion blur. There feels like there's a bit of a hard cut there. Oh, we've spotted something. So a little bit of a hard cut where I think the blur should continue on the page. Yeah, like this one. Oh, just fantastic. And I love the colors as well. And of course, this is the main light source in the scene. Even though there's kind of moonlight or something outside, that's the main light source. And then we've got all these delicious highlights kind of along the subject's hair, ear, chin, along the legs, along the chair. And highlights are pretty tough. And Benny did do a tutorial the other day, Benny Productions. You probably know who that guy is. He did a tutorial, like an updated one for highlights. I've not watched it yet, but it's on my to-do list. And he's always been fantastic at doing these kind of dramatic highlights. So if you really kind of like this type of work, that's probably worth a watch. I imagine it's going to be pretty good. Moosh Attack, welcome. The other children manage the third, Quentin. Exactly. Hello, Zach. That's a good question. Where did you grab all those source images? Yeah, are these freely sourced, or are they from Adobe Stock or somewhere? It's an old project. I usually get them from Adobe Stock, Unsplash, DeviantArt, and FreePick. Yeah, I think the difference in quality between Adobe Stock and Unsplash is going to be, there's going to be like a massive gap in terms of quality. I guess it's the old saying, you get what you pay for. If you're interested in doing this kind of photo manipulation, definitely have a subscription to something, a paid subscription, somewhere where you can get high quality assets. So for me, the ones that I use primarily are Envato Elements and Adobe Stock. I've actually stopped using Adobe Stock now just because I had like so many credits that I wasn't using, and I'm kind of doing bits of other things at the minute as well. But that was the one I used for years. But there's loads. There's iStock, Shutterstock. I would recommend having a subscription to just one of those platforms, because the quality of images it's much higher than what you can get on Unsplash. Yeah, but this is great. I mean, you know, there's not a lot to critique really here, apart from those couple little kind of technical bits up here. Let's try and find something. Let's try and make this sort of useful. I guess you could say some of the particles here could be a bit more gradual rather than sort of just be, it looks like they've been brushed out there. But to be honest, I'm really clutching at straws. I think this is absolutely excellent. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I know exactly who this piece of work belongs to. And I got to be honest, I love it. Yeah, I love your style, man. It's so cool. Right. Next up. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what this is for. It says add up here, and this is by Dumisani McDonald. Right, initial impressions. The text on the left and the right is quite tough to read. Maybe it's just my brain, but when I saw this, I was kind of like, whoa, we've got this. I'm sort of reading, top down, left to right, as is kind of the norm, at least in the Western world. Anyway, I know in some Eastern countries it's right to left, but as I am from the UK, I go from left to right. And, so I read this. And then I was reading this down here, and I was like, restore. And it took me a few seconds. It got my brain thinking like, what is this saying? And I think when it comes to this type of thing, it's good to think. It's good to get the brain thinking. But in this, it should be immediate. I shouldn't have to kind of read this down really slowly. And then there was another one over here, and it's too much effort. So I appreciate the kind of style and the way it's kind of used to frame the design. But I think from a person who's going to be consuming this, I think it's unnecessarily complicated. So, I mean, I suppose we could have a play around, couldn't we? We've got time. Let's have a little play around. So first of all, I'm just going to remove these like that. And we could do rest, relax, restore somewhere else. We could even blow this image up and make this bigger. This is a flattened image, so I can't really do too much. Contact information. So the alignment here feels like if we're going to kind of align this like to the left, I'm not sure what it's aligned to at the minute. So that's what I'm trying and failing to say. So we've got the icons. They're cool. Nice visual anchor there. I do find it funny. We sort of still use this kind of old phone icon, but but I'll wager that most people don't have a telephone like this anymore. The old kind of. Sometimes I still see the phone icon where you kind of put your finger in and go round, and it's like we haven't had those for, I don't know, 60, 70 years or something, long before I was born anyway. So what you can do is you can use, if you want to use a phone icon, smartphones or more modern phones can work pretty well. But anyway, I digress. Let's have an alignment. So we've got the icon standing out over here on its own. That's fine. But then if we're going to have any kind of other supporting text, this line of text here needs to go up alongside the text. Or if we're going to line it up here, it needs to be pushed to the right. So let's just line those up. And then we'll follow that same methodology over here as well. So as you can see, this one, oh, look at my trackpad skills. They're much better today. So we're going to push that one over just so we have a bit of organization, a bit of structure, which is something that I'm very hot on, that kind of thing. That is I'm very technical as a designer. And of course, it's nice to watermark your work, but this would be like the end product, so we wouldn't have that on there per se. And the only other thing I would say then, the image, I think you could have the rest, restore, and refresh on there. I think that could be great. You could do something really nice with the text, and you could have each different word in a different color. Yeah, I can't help but wonder if you could blow this image up and have the text over the image in some way. It just feels like we've got a lot of wasted space here. I'm a big fan of kind of negative space and padding and breathing space, but it feels like we could make that image bigger here, especially if this would be displayed quite small. So rest, restore, refresh. And does it need a logo on? Is there a brand? And I guess even if we add the text on here, rest, refresh, and restore, what is this actually selling? What is this communicating? Like I know down here it's a sports club, so I'm guessing it's maybe a sports club with a spa in it. What is this? This looks like Oh, is that a bottle? It looked like some kind of magical egg or something. Like she just sort of, to me, it looked like she cracked an egg and she's pouring an egg white on him. That's probably not what's happening here. But yeah, I think overall it might just need a little bit more context. Because if this is promoting something like massage, for example, perhaps an image that actually has massage on it rather than the therapist prepping the oils by dripping them into her hand. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes we get given images and we have to just make it work. So I'm not going to kind of harp on about the image too much, but I think if it is something that's kind of not the actual massage itself, the whole thing needs a bit more context. And lastly, if we're going to keep these down here, we just got to make sure this space, oops, where's me red gone? What? Why do you keep changing back? There we go. Naughty Photoshop. Yeah, so you can see the space here, top and bottom. When it's over 2 lines as well, that spacing just isn't equal. So what we need to do is we just need to nudge all of this content down here up so the spacing above and below is equal. That's the kind of thing that I always kind of really pick up on. It's one of those things that, do you need to do it? No. Is it going to compromise the creativity and the designer's vision by just shifting it up a few pixels? No. What happens if we shift it up a few pixels? Will it look more balanced? Yes. Okay, we should probably just try and make it balanced. So where possible, I'm always looking for opportunities to align things and anchor things to other objects. It's just tidier and it just makes everything look cleaner. And as well here, like they've done a really good job here, but I would just make sure that everything's kind of lining up to those left edges. So like I just said, we're kind of anchoring the icons and the text to the image. Here comes the red marker. Absolutely. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's green. I've got no idea. Reese says possibly even bring some shape elements to help frame the piece all together. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea. And I think as well, yeah, you could use some shape elements to kind of help the text stand out. It could be some boxes, containers. You could have them stacked. You could have them staggered from left to right. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's oil. I don't think she's cracking an egg white onto him. Quentin says the colors don't feel like a relaxing experience. Yeah, the black is quite prominent, isn't it? I think you can use colors like blacks and grays and it can look quite classy. But it does feel like there's just too much black at the moment. So I feel like, yeah, we could kind of make the image a bit bigger. And I mean, you could even, if you had containers like Reese suggested, you could make the image fill the entire ad and then overlay the contact information and the typography over the actual image. I think you could easily pick some of the tans in the background to soften it. Yeah, that's a good idea. These sorts of colors. And you could even make some of the text these colors as well, which will just kind of help that synergy between the typography and the imagery or any graphics as well. That's something that I do quite a lot. I kind of pick out key colors from any imagery and try and match that into maybe the icons or the text. And it just helps that synergy between the type and the graphics side of things. Convincing clients to use more appropriate imagery is often half the work of the designer. Yes, right. It really is. And they're like, no, I want to use this image, but it's rubbish. I don't care. Right, okay. Ooh, oh, I love this one. Oh, I love this one. We'll show this one first. So, Nauka? Yeah, I got to be honest, I love this. And I love it for a few reasons. One, it's just really kind of clean and really like premium looking, very smart. Yeah, just really simple. But the other reason I like it is because it's one of those rare instances where I've seen letters squished together so much and I still actually quite like it. You know, I would never normally squish the letters so close together. Yeah, it's clean, right? Please use this photo of my partner. Yeah. I took a picture of my dog. Can you put that in? Yeah, so what have we got? We've got a bag mock-up. Oh, it just looks really nice. And this is a good mock-up as well. We've got a nice background, lovely textured bag, and it's just a really clean mock-up. The fashion boat. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. The only other thing I would do with this mock-up here, I don't think they've done it, is I would add a displacement map. So if you go to filter and distort and displace, what you could do is you could save this materially texture as a black and white displacement map PSD. And then when you have your logo, if that's a vector smart object in Photoshop, then you go and apply a displace, add about, I don't know, 10 to 20 on the displacement to start with, and then select that PSD file. And what it will do is it will map the curves and things and displace this logo to match the shadows and highlights on the material behind. And it would just kind of, instead of this being totally flat on something that is kind of raised and bumped, the logo would kind of bend and warp to match the actual material. So it would just look a bit more realistic. This is an excellent mock-up. And they've kind of got the texture blending through as well. And that last little step will just kind of make it kind of go up and down and fit the actual material, which would look especially nice. I've just noticed that pattern here as well. Kind of like leaves or something. Yeah, nice colors. I think the dot on the left could be removed. Yeah, I think that's a fair critique actually. You could knock that one off there. I think maybe there's a few too many dots. If I were to critique it, love this. Love the way you've kind of got this sort of consistent width. One thing that does stand out, and this is, I guess, I don't know if this is like I don't know if you can kind of get around this, if it's a typographic thing, because here you've got the A and the U. Like my brain wants that to be the same width all the way down. But then, of course, if you do that, you're distorting the letter forms. Yeah, and if you did it by distorting the A, you've then got to carry that through there. So I don't know. I think maybe the kind of spec. What do you guys think on this? This kind of thick here, and I would maybe wonder if it's one of those things that's just you kind of have to let it go, you know? Like it's not the end of the world. The same here. Something feels a bit odd here. Like I just don't know if I would kind of carry that down and then go straight here, whereas it kind of meets at this really sort of slightly awkward point. I'm not sure. Let's check the overshoot as well. Yeah. Ah, this is interesting. Haha. So yeah. And this is a tricky one actually, because normally the bottom part of like your A's and your U's, you have something called overshoot. So you do go below the baseline ever so slightly. But because the A in this example connects to the K so seamlessly, or the N, do you have to negate the overshoot to get that kind of flat bottom? I would probably say yes. But one thing I'm just noticing now, no, that's pretty tight. Yeah, so it seems like the N is just kind of floating up. You can see, so I would definitely bring that down. So I think a lot of it, yeah, I don't know if this is just the render, maybe smooth that curve ever so slightly. It curves up and then goes straight quite quickly. In terms of the letters, I love these letters. I don't know if this was a font or a hand-drawn font. But yeah, for me, it's just a few minor tweaks, real minor stuff. The 90% of this looks beautiful. Ben says, I like this a lot, except for the right vertical line in the end. Oh, I hadn't seen that, Ben. I didn't even see that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. What do we think? Match this one here? Oh no, I'm seeing things now. Okay, I'm not a massive fan of the way that we've got square edge here and rounded there. As a serif, that does feel a little bit odd to me. I got to be honest. And yeah, that one does feel a bit odd as well. So maybe kind of go one way or the other and then have something similar there with the serif. God, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, definitely nudge the end down, Reese. Absolutely. Caps for the fashion boat. Yeah, I think you could do. Let's look at it down here a bit better. I think for me, with stuff like this, it's kind of like what I was saying a minute ago. You know, if we're going to look at the alignment, it's almost there, but not quite. And if I go to the other side, this one depends if you align to the A or the full stop. I'm probably going to go somewhere around here. Yeah, so for me, what I would do is I would either make the fashion boat the exact same width as the main logo type, or I would make it deliberately smaller. So I would push it out to those red lines, or I would bring it in noticeably like this. When it's kind of so close that it's almost in line, but not quite, to me at least, it does look like a mistake, or it can make it look like it can make it look lazy, like a bit sloppy around the edge, you know? It doesn't feel like totally intentional. Whereas if it is directly lined up to the edge, or it is definitively smaller, it looks more intentional. But when it's almost there but not quite, it just looks like a bit of misalignment. Does that make sense? And we've got the mock-up here as well. I mean, as far as mock-ups go, these mock-ups are like A-class. They're just so nice. You know, we've got the gold here. Got it mocked up on the side. We've got the nice texture as well. Yeah, it's really smart. Really smart. And one thing I really like with these mock-ups as well, you can use contrast to great effect. You could have the background a different color and that bag would pop off for sure. But I kind of like this. They've kept the background, the bag, the material, the sign, even the wall. The wall is the same color as the black sign. They've kept the actual thing that's being mocked up on the same kind of tone, whether it's browns or like a grayscale like this. But then the logo is gold, or it's this kind of, not even sure what color you'd call that. I'm going to go with latte. We'll call it latte color. Or down here, you've kind of got it in a more silver color. So the logo always stands out from the thing it's being mocked up on. Also, this could be a coffee brand. Maybe it's just this overwhelming brown. I don't know. I'm thinking coffee beans. Maybe they're coffee beans. Maybe this pattern is some oddly shaped coffee beans. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I mean, it kind of reminds me a bit of the Nescafe logo. Is it? No. Not Nescafe. Nespresso, I think it is. Hang on, let me have a look. Nespresso logo. Oh, it's okay, totally different. But I'll just show you. This is what it reminds me of. Even though it's totally different, it's just kind of got that. I don't know. Actually, no, this is way better, I think. So if they wanted to turn this into a coffee brand, that might be an interesting way to go. Ben Harris just made Dansky kick up the critique a notch. I know. I know. It's funny though, isn't it? How like I'm looking at this and I just did not even see that. And then once you kind of zoom in and you're like, wait a second, what is this? Oh no, what's this? Exactly, Quinton. It is a great logo. It's great. The mock-ups are fantastic. Just the kind of tiny little things, and the sort of more technical details, that kind of stuff. That is sort of more my field. I think that's the kind of stuff I tend to notice. So creatively, it looks absolutely stunning, and technically, it's very good as well. Just a couple of little minor things, I think. I'd love to know what font this is. Ooh, maybe we could find out. I always forget Illustrator's got this new feature, the retype feature. So let's paste in a JPEG and let's try retype. Let's see if it can find it. Come on, Illustrator. Justify that subscription price for me. All right, what do we got? Okay. Not an exact match. Ooh, I like this one. What's that? 10 is bold. JPEG. It's my French coming through, Ben. French. I can speak French, German, and Italian, and I can say about 5 words in each language. One of those is cheese. You've got fromage. Wait, yeah, I think that's fromage in French, queso in German, and queso in Spanish. Because obviously, if you ever go to these countries, you should absolutely know how to say the word cheese. Anyway, right, what was I doing? Shut up, Dan. So convert it to live text, exit. Let's ungroup this. Well, it's not exactly the same, but that is a, let me try and type the word. Let's type it in there as well, actually. That makes it a bit better. Yeah, so it didn't find an exact match, but this is one of the good things about this, is it will try and find similar matches. Or even kind of taking this. See how it looks if I squish it in a bit. Yeah, I mean, you could take something like this and even use this to kind of generate ideas or as a starting point. I think I'd want a font that has much more kind of more straight lines. This one's a bit sort of wibbly wobbly. But yeah, I'd be curious to know if that was a specific typeface or if it was something that they took into Illustrator and customized, for example. Sometimes that is the better way to go, is to take an existing font that's been created by someone who specializes in typography and letter forms, because there's a lot of things that they'll pick up on that when we try and do our own fonts, sometimes they'll pick up on things that we won't. So typographically, you can use an existing font that is pretty tight and then just make a few kind of tweaks here and there to make it feel original without breaking all of the typography do's and don'ts, you know? Nauka, also known as the Multipurpose Laboratory Module Upgrade, or simply Multipurpose Laboratory Module, is a module of the International Space Station. Fun facts with Ben. Ben, you just became the Microsoft paperclip. Did you know? Alok, hello, welcome back. Good to have you here. The word for coffee in any language is way more important than cheese. You are 100% right, Quentin. Un café is French. German. What's coffee in German? Un café con leche is coffee with milk in Spanish. I don't know what coffee is in German, though. Das Coffee. Café. It's pretty similar in all languages, isn't it? That's probably intentional. You don't want to go to another country and not know how to ask for a coffee. That would be an absolute nightmare. Right. Oh, I love this. Right, hang on. I've got an Illustrator file here, and I've got a JPEG. All right, goodbye, Nauka. Goodbye. Nano vents. I have no context for this. And this is by Mahmoud Rahman Parag. And yeah, really, really cool. This is a vector file. I'm not entirely sure what this is about. We have some kind of leaves over here, so I'm guessing there's maybe some element to do with nature. It does kind of feel like a fusion of tech with the blue, the nano, and then green with the vents. I don't know if it's like something to do with the environment. It has to be with that. Kind of like a fusion of tech, sort of, what am I thinking? Kind of man-made and natural. But it just caught my eye with the two distinct colors, and you got the kind of N for nano and the V for vents. Just looks really, really cool. And yeah, that's all the context I have on this one. Tommy says, I have one little question. Do you think it's okay to make a portfolio with fake or invented works and designs to show what you can do if you don't have any experience yet? 1,000,000% yes. Absolutely, Tommy. I was chatting with someone yesterday, and I think that's a great idea. And there's a few people that have submitted PDFs with logos they've created for brands. They've done the fonts, they've done the colors, they've done the product mock-ups, they've mocked up this entire brand guidelines or brand presentation. And I'm looking at them on stream and going, oh yeah, this is nice. Well, I would do this and da 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 da. And at the end, they tell me that it's just completely fictitious. It's not even for a real client. And there's been a few of those the last few weeks, and I'm just blown away. I'm absolutely blown away. It's like, while I was going through this PDF on the stream, I was thinking like, oh, this is a real client and a real project. I bought into it. Some of the mock-ups were so well done and believable. So absolutely, yes, that's a great way to kind of do it. I think if someone were to ask you directly, like, are these real clients, or is this just, work that you produced? Like, let's say a client said, oh, could you show me your work? And you show them your work and they say, oh, was this a real project? Probably don't lie. Just be honest. But you might find that a lot of people don't. They just look at your work and go, oh, wow, this looks good. I love this. And like me, when I'm reviewing it, I didn't even think to question if it was like a real project. I do that a lot more now because there's just some that are so convincing. I wouldn't have even thought for a second that it wasn't a real client, So yes, as Quinton says, that is a very good way to start your career and get experience as well. In Hebrew, cheese is gvina. Oh, I like that word, gvina. Gvina. Do you pronounce the G? Now you know 6 languages. Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't say no. English. My English is a bit wonky as well. As you well know if you've joined these streams regularly. Are you open to accept projects? Not yet. I'm going to rattle through lots of these today. And then I think possibly later on in the week or next week, I'll open up submissions again. I'm just trying to get through as many as I can. Just because I get so many submissions, I don't want to have this ginormous backlog. Oh, there's a mock-up as well. Nice. So there we've got a mock-up on the corner of a page or a book or a folder or something. And again, when you're doing mock-ups, I'd recommend Photoshop and just make sure you kind of blend that texture through. If you're not sure how to blend the texture through, I can show you that now actually. Let's grab the logo, paste it in. Well, first of all, you want to warp it and do all that stuff to make it sit at the right angle. Now you can see here it looks flat. You could change the blending mode, but that doesn't really kind of bring the texture through, and it can mess around with the colors. So what you want to do is right click on your layer, go to blending options. And then here, yes, these two bars here. I can never remember which one. I always forget. Don't just drag, because it will do this and it will look rubbish. Hold down Alt or Option on the keyboard and you can separate this little kind of cursor into two halves. And as you can see, I bring it to the left and it kind of lets that texture come through. You can also do the same on this side. I always forget which one it is. Yeah, no, it's this one. And just doing that enables that texture to come through. And you can see this one looks a little bit darker. So what you might need to do is play around with, can I adjust the color? Whoa, not like that. Maybe let's bump up the contrast. Maybe that might. We've got to be careful we don't mess up the colors too much. But yeah, you can use levels, brightness, contrast, curves, a few different things to kind of bring some of that color back. Could we use multiply as well? Oh, I suppose you could do, yeah. Depending on it, as you can see, it does change the colors, but it does just make it that little bit darker. So a few different techniques there, but you absolutely want that texture coming through, and that is one way to do it. Also great if you want to mock up tattoos onto your skin, for example. It's exactly the same technique. Or graffiti onto a wall. You're just blending all that kind of solid colors and shapes in the design software onto a photograph. You're a good teacher. I'm from Peru. Oh, well, hello from Peru. Or, no, wait, hello from the UK to Peru. But thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, you're welcome, Tommy. For sure, I'm just getting started in this world. Oh, excellent, Tommy. You just set me up for a lovely segue, because if you are getting started in the graphic design world and you want to learn the main bit of software that you will absolutely need as a graphic designer, boy, have I got the course for you. That was terrible. Right. So basically, this is my Adobe Illustrator masterclass. I launched it earlier this year. Reese is probably cringing at that segue right now. Sorry, Reese, I let you down there. This is the Adobe Illustrator masterclass. It teaches everything that I know about Adobe Illustrator that I've learned over the last 17 years, and it will teach it all in about, I think, 5 to 6 hours. And it's just been updated for Adobe Illustrator 2024. And yeah, finally got it done and just packaged up everything I know about the software. So yeah, if you if you don't want to spend years doing random tutorials and doing things the wrong way like I did for so long, then this course is the fastest way to just download what is in my brain about Adobe Illustrator into yours. And yeah, it's great because you'll know all the tools, all the different features really, really quickly. And then you can just, focus on having fun and actually designing things rather than just going around in circles and trying to figure out how to do things. So yeah, that is my masterclass for Illustrator, and hopefully it's helpful. Right. Thank you for that that setup there, Tommy. That was amazing. Okie dokie. Right. Deep Patel says, how can I get my portfolio reviewed? So I'll open up submissions again in about a week or so. I'd probably submit we could do one for portfolio review. Typically, people upload individual designs rather than an entire portfolio. Oh my goodness. How has it nearly been an hour? My goodness. But, we could always do a portfolio review. There's a first time for everything. Right, what do we got here? Okay, the letter I for illustrators. 2 letter L's. Light lines, guidelines are essential for every design. Dos, the artist. Ilustrados, hat. Okay, I guess. I'm not sure what these kind of white extension lines are, if they're meant to be there or not. But I do love the lines and the circles that have been used to create this. The reason being that if you do create your logos using these basic shapes and basic lines, it mitigates the chance that the technical side of it is going to be let down. Because if I were to try and, you know, pen tool this, for example, even if I've got, you know, 50 years as a pen tool master, which I definitely don't. I mean, it's not possible for me to have 50 years as a 36-year-old. Am I 36? 36 or 37? I've actually forgotten how old I am again. You know, it's never going to be as precise as using the basic shapes in this way. That's why when I'm designing my logos, I'm always using basic shapes like circles, squares, straight lines, diagonal lines, everywhere that I can, because it just means that I'm always going to be getting those perfectly clean curves, nice and smooth. And yeah, you end up with a logo like this, which looks really, really tight. Illustrados artistris. Probably completely butchered that. Yeah, so I don't really have any context for this. I mean, apart from this that I didn't entirely understand. But yeah, it looks nice. It looks really clean. I love the kind of the juxtaposition between the kind of the bold and the lighter weight font. Nice clean sans serif font. Spaced nicely as well. Nice bit of spacing there and a good gap here. It works stacked up. I think this kind of mark would work. This sort of logo, sorry, would work with it on the left as well. So you could very easily just kind of pop that there and then kind of left align all of this. So that would work. It works in a single color. And I suppose we could critique the colors, but it's difficult without any more context. Yeah, I think the contrast is okay. You could maybe make that a bit brighter. Yeah, I suppose at smaller sizes or on the web, that one there is going to become very thin. So could and should that be a tiny bit bolder? Maybe. But I'm not going to get too in-depth with it because there's only so much context I've got. So, you know, I'm kind of shooting in the dark here in terms of feedback. I would love to see the process using grids and circles to create logos, maybe in a future stream. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I do sometimes do. I did it actually in the Dove logo. When I did that final Dove logo, when I finished it up off stream, I did do that. For me personally, when I start using loads and loads of circles, it actually gives me a bit of a headache. Because when you've got like 20 circles and you're trying to actually design with all these overlaying lines and shapes, especially using the shape builder tool, which isn't always the cleanest way of doing it. You get like lots of bits and pieces. It can be quite tough. One thing that I've found that helps me quite a lot is let's just do a bunch of circles and pretend I'm doing a logo. You know, you might I'm just going to make up a shape. So you can end up with something that looks like this. And, you know, you get all your circles in position. You're like, right, yeah, this is great. And then you get your shape builder tool and go, right, okay, this is a thing. I'm just literally making this up. Yeah, this is like a bird or something. Don't know what kind of animal that is. But it never usually kind of happens that cleanly. And with all these kind of circles, it gets quite hard to actually see the design. So one thing that I've found really helps me is I might use a circle, but then I'll literally delete the bottom half and I'll have this one here as well. So I'll work with a half circle and I'll actually even have a quarter circle. Or what I'll do is I'll put my circles in, and I think, right, okay, it's starting to get a bit complicated now for me to see. So the bits that are out here that I definitely do not need, I'll start to delete them. Make cuts with the scissor tool as well. And what this does is it just kind of leaves the lines and the curves I actually need. So rather than having all these kind of bits of circle out there, and then I go, oh, right, okay. It just kind of simplifies what I'm looking at, which makes it easier for me to go through and create whatever that is. It's like a little runner bean, isn't it? Let's go through and not entirely sure where I'm going with this, but there we go. There's a thing. Yeah, so and you can go into the sort of golden ratio and that kind of territory. It's not something I do a lot. For me, it's just really about only creating curves with the pen tool and things when I really have to. If I'm doing like this type of clean logo, use arcs, half circles, circles, rectangles, lines. Just use as many basic shapes as you can because it just makes everything cleaner. Then if you have to draw a custom line for something, then go ahead and do it. Or use the pencil tool, crank up the smoothness. And this is a really good way, not that. Like I'm using a trackpad now, and this is a really good way. Oh no, my trackpad's not big enough. I'm on a 14-inch laptop. Come on. I'm switching between fingers here. Trackpad. Come on. There we go. Oh, that was awful. Ha. So yeah, you know, it kind of depends. You can go for the clean, perfect circles and curves type of logo, or if it's more illustrative, yeah, maybe you will use the pen tool and the pencil tool. I love this feature. Got the smooth slider, and we've also got the smooth tool as well. Anyway, tangent. Dansky, it's coffee time for you now. It's always coffee time, Zach. Who is liking with me? Yes, like the video, the stream, whatever's happening. Where am I? Okay. Okie dokie. Oh, this is an interesting one. Yeah, okay, so I've not got that font. Oh, that's unfortunate. I mean, it's not like it's not a crazy font. It literally is probably the most sans serif font you can get. It says paper fry, and it's just kind of this simple logo that looks like a bit of folded paper with this shadow. I don't have any more context for this, but it's just, I mean, I could probably just slap in Helvetica and that wouldn't be too far off. It looks something like that. Obviously the font's missing here. They've done a dark version as well and a linear version. I don't have any more context for this, so I'm not entirely sure what this is for. All I can really tell you is that if I just throw in a thing, there we go, something like that. I do like the mark, and it looks really kind of tightly done. How has that shadow been done as well? What do we got? That inner shadow there. Oh, I see. That's just a drop shadow, but it's on black, so it disappears. Ooh, yeah. So yeah, I don't really have much more context for this. It's paper fry. I mean, is that an F or a P? Maybe, I think that's meant to be maybe a P. It looks nice. I'm just not entirely sure what it is or what it's for. But yeah, very clean lines. Technically, we're all good. And this one's an interesting one as well because it is a mixture of curves and squared off edges, but it feels more intentional. sometimes in the past streams, you'll have seen me pick up on logos that kind of mix curves and squared edges, and the curves have different widths. Whereas like these two here, these two opposites, they seem to be the same kind of corner radius, and it feels deliberate. Whereas if these were slightly rounded but not quite the same, it would feel like a more of a mistake. I've got to show you this though. Hang on, let me just move that over there. So that's a great way to do it, drop shadow. But obviously, like the drop shadow then extends out here as well. So if you had a background color that was different, you'd see the shadow. A way to contain the shadow in here, right, is, let's get rid of it first of all. And then what I'm going to do is move this down by dragging. So I'm going to create a copy of that top shape. We'll start with black for now. And I'm going to go blur, Gaussian blur. Give it some blur. Go with 10, see how that looks. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to crop this to the shape below. So I'll select the blurred shape and the shape below, copy, paste in place, and move these out. I'm going to move this shape on the bottom in front. And with that shape on top, go to clipping mask and make, and it crops that in here. So now what I can do, just nudge that back in. And I'm using the arrow keys because it does it perfectly then. I can kind of move it out, do what I need to do, move it back in, and I've not got to worry about lining it up. And I can now double click to go back inside here, and I've still got full control of this shape. So let's say I wanted to blur it a bit more. I could do that, or I could blur it less and make it kind of more pronounced. I could change the color. I could bring the opacity down. Double click anywhere on the workspace to come back out. And yeah, that's one way that you can kind of create a drop shadow effect using a custom shape, a Gaussian blur, and a clipping mask. And the reason I would do that is because if I want to throw a colored background behind, you see that drop shadow isn't kind of, oh, that's horrible contrast. That drop shadow isn't spilling out onto the background now. So that's one way that you can add a custom drop shadow and then contain it within a shape using a clipping mask. Don't you think using shadow in logo is bad? Because if you can get another way to add shadow stock / spacing. I think you can get away with using shadows in a logo, but it's kind of like, as you can see here, it sort of falls apart when it's, excuse me, printed in one color. So, you know, it looks great in white, but just be prepared. You could have a black and white version, I suppose. Sorry, a reverse black version. But you need to consider how it's going to look, and do you need to design it slightly differently? I mean, yeah, personally, what I would do is throw all that over there. You know, one way that you could get around this is I could copy this line with the direct selection tool and move that out, copying it rather than making a new line, because now these two angles are perfect. This is why it's so important to use the right tool for the right job, because I could easily just draw that with the pen tool. And now I've just created an inconsistency that didn't need to be there. So if you've got similar lines, just use them first. Same here, I could just grab this curve and try and rotate this like this. And then extend that whilst keeping the angle exactly the same. Again, let's rotate that so it lines up. So I'm trying to not actually create anything new, just reuse the existing shapes. Shape builder tool this bit away. Ooh. Oh no, it's going to give me problems now, isn't it? Okay. Does that cross over? Come, oh, it's not even touching. It's not even touching. Come on, Dan. Well, let's just kind of fudge that for now, just so I can trim this away. No, it's not working. Right. Okay. So if it's not working, let's get rid of that fill color, and we'll throw on a pink, just so we can see what on earth's going on, and I can just get rid of these lines manually. Yeah, it's because they're not overlapping, so I might have to kind of drag this one in. There we go. And there we go, something like that. And then what we can do is trim that off. Oh, that one needs to overlap as well. Yeah, sometimes the anchor points will line up in Illustrator, but Shape Builder tool just don't want to play nice. So if you get that, just overshoot it a little bit, trim off the end. And now I should be able to open that gap up. And then join these. Path and join. We could fix that angle later on. Yeah, so it needs a bit of cleanup and a bit of work, but this is what I was trying to demonstrate you could do. So you still kind of get that paper effect, but we've done it and it can be printed in a single color and it works in a single color. And it's quite important because there's, you know, depending on where that brand will use their logo, single color print can be much more cost effective. If you've got a print run of 30,000 flyers or business cards or letterheads and, you know, you're doing it in color versus black and white, the cost can be quite significantly different. So sometimes companies will print the internal stuff in black and white to save on cost, and then they put that money into the external stuff that customers are going to see being all flashy and full color. So it's always good to have the option for your logo to work in black and white. Oh, see you later, Dilshan. Thanks for stopping by. So that is just kind of one example of how instead of a drop shadow, you could do something like this and kind of cut into the design. But yeah, I think the takeaway is really just consider where the logo is going to be used. As long as you're kind of covering that base, you know, consider where it will be used and design accordingly is probably the best advice. My goodness, we're running out of time. Okay, another bit of photo manipulation. Yeah, this one's an interesting one. So I love the way they've blended the image here. The top, the forest fire kind of going down, and then you've got the nice, plain, picturesque countryside underneath. I think the retouching looks really nice on this, actually. It's pretty good. The graphic looks really seamless. I'm not a massive fan of the typography. The contrast with the red, 3 different fonts, all within this kind of small space. It feels quite tight around the edge as well. The word hour doesn't line up with the word planet, so it kind of all feels a little bit all over the place. Preserve. Yeah, I think this could work. This could work. I haven't got a font ready, so let's just throw in Times New Roman, classic. So what I would do personally, let's get Preserve Our Planet in there. I would lose the red and just, I think white, you know, you've got plenty of this whole design has a clear kind of tone. It's very kind of, well, kind of a bit sort of sepia down here, and then you've got the warmer colors at the top. I think here we could very easily just do something like this. We'll centrally align the 2 biggest words, and then we can kind of move this one around a bit. As long as the main kind of words are central, that sort of defines the structure of this lockup. What we can do is we can play around with this one in the middle. And what I could do is actually bring that spacing down on the word planet. And like I said earlier, if you can find relationships between objects, so here you can see I'm lining the word hour up with the S and the E. So rather than it just kind of being random or overshooting, I'm trying to sort of find other shapes that I can anchor this to. And it kind of almost lines up with the A and the N as well. So you can see that very quickly, even just using one font, I've created something that just looks, I don't want to say better, but it just kind of feels more balanced. We could space it out a little bit more as well. Something else you could do that'd be quite nice for this is just change the word hour to a more handwritten font. It feels a bit more personal. I've just literally picked this one, like find a nice one that's legible and everything. But, you know, when we're talking about preserving our planet, it's kind of, it's that introducing that human element. So sometimes brands will do this if they want something to feel more organic or handcrafted or bespoke. Because this type of lettering is usually kind of, you know, traditionally hand drawn. You get this really sort of hand drawn feel rather than something that's been kind of typeset effectively. So there's a couple of different versions there, and then yeah, maybe you could pull out a color if you wanted to, I suppose, and kind of call attention to it, and you could kind of do something like that. I keep hearing the trash sound and freak out that I did something on my machine. It's not me, is it? Where's the trash sound coming from? Am I the trash sound? So yeah, that's the thing I would do, is I would kind of focus on that. I'm not sure what this kind of circle is with the the sphere with the tree in it. Do you know what I would do? What I would do for this design, obviously limited context. Now I'm really freaking out. I've got no idea what the trash sound is. Hopefully I'm not the trash sound. So what I would do is I would get rid of this. I would remove this text here and replace it with something like this with a bit more structure. And I would actually make the top, keep that. That's all fine, the sort of, you know, devastation, warm colors. But this bit down here about preserve our planet, I would make that color. I would have this beautiful greens, blue skies, green fields. That will create a really nice contrast in this image. You'll have a clear disparity between the awful destruction and the beautiful planet that is under threat. And that difference in contrast between fire and destruction and nice green trees, fields, and clouds will be really, really visually kind of appealing. So it will stand out more. But then it also kind of makes sense as well, you know, the text saying preserve our planet, and then we've got some of our planet down here that is left to be preserved. And there's quite a few different ways that places you could put the text. Actually, you could have it in the middle and it probably work quite nicely. There's a lot of space there to make it bigger, and the background's quite dark, so it does stand out as well. So you could do that. Yeah, it kind of creates a nice symmetry as well. You know, you're almost dividing the image in half horizontally. You've got the lovely down here and the bad up here. And yeah, so I think the retouching at the moment is probably stronger than this side of things. And yeah, and I think if that is the case, and you're not as experienced in working with text and lettering or creating these lockups with multiple words, my advice is just start simple. Start with one font, because you can see I did all this with one font. Stick to one font just to start with. Play around with things like tracking, you know, to kind of increase the spacing. Uppercase, lowercase, different font weights. You know, we could go and make this bold or italic or something. Bring that tracking back down. play around with those things and do it with just one font to start with. And as you get more comfortable, you can then intermix kind of two different, you can combine two different typefaces together, for example. But yeah, it's something that I do see quite a lot. I see sort of people get very, designers and non-designers get very creative with fonts, especially business owners that do their own design work in-house. They get very creative with their fonts and actually make everything worse. And it's kind of like if you just used Arial or Times, like the most basic of fonts, but used it in the right way and kept it more simple, it would actually, the logo or the title design would just look better, you know? Oh, every time you trash someone's work. Oh, it's so funny. No, I am the trash sound. I thought it was like the kind of pop of my coffee lid. That's not really a trash sound, is it? Oh, hang on. Are you ready, Reese? You ready, Quentin? I'm gonna trigger you. Oh, did you delete something? I've got no idea. Oh, careful! Don't delete those folders. Spam trash sound. That's funny. Right, I've got about 10 minutes left, and then I really do have to run. So, do you know what? I'm just going to open everything. I'm going to open all this. We're going to do quick fire design review now. Got Illustrator files and PSDs. Got everything. Wade Limited, right. I love this, first of all. I absolutely love this clean, minimal style. Great use of angles. That curve there is a bit sharp and a bit questionable, slightly inconsistent, but I do love it. Wheels, could they be circles? Maybe, but not gonna split hairs over it. I love the kind of the 5 green kind of the color banding style. Just, yeah, it looks really cool. It's quite a nice color palette, a bit different as well. You know, the dark blue, yellow, and the different greens. Yeah, Wade Limited. I mean, it looks really clean and smart, actually. I do like it. The curves all around generally are quite inconsistent. Big curve here, no curve there. Teeny tiny curve there, slightly less so there. So I think probably just needs tightening up a little bit. Also, the limited text is way too light. It does look nice design-wise, but it just needs to be bolder, especially if this were to be used on a website, because if I zoom out like this, yeah, you can't really see it. But yeah, generally really cool. And I mean, arguably, you could even try a version that gets rid of all the green. That could look pretty cool. Can I do that? No. But you could, yeah, you could do that and just use the truck kind of mark on its own and then have a 2-color yellow and blue palette. Oh, that was quick, wasn't it? That was quick. I do like that one, though. I love this. I'm not sure what style this is called. It reminds me a little bit of Cuphead. It's a video game. Cuphead, Flower Boss. I'm not sure. What is it? Is it like 1930s cartoon style or something like that? Yeah, this is it. I love this. Slightly different style, but Cagney Carnation. Yes, it's such an amazing kind of style. This fella's a little bit happier here. Not really too much to say about this. It's more kind of illustrative. I guess the 2 highlights on the leaves could be a bit similar. The curves on these highlights here could just be a bit more consistent. Smoother curves. This bit's sharp. This bit's rounded. What's going on? Should they be the same? Probably. Same for the nose. You could probably make that like a nicer curve. It kind of feels a bit top heavy at the minute. But I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of that's what I'm sort of. No, they should be nice and smooth. There's no downside to just making those curves smoother. You still get the beautiful kind of creative execution and art style. It's just kind of tightening up the little details. Same with this one here. Just that if that was a smooth curve, it would just look better. It would. That line there, just kind of nipping in, just push that out a bit. Color's beautiful, and I love the style. Yeah, looks really cool. Panic, everything deleted. Oh, this is awesome. So love this. Toshinori Yaga, what's this? All Might. Yeah, it's just a really cool kind of anime style t-shirt design. There's loads going on here. It's pretty tight, the way everything kind of lines up. My Hero Academy. My Hero. I mean, this lettering here, that looks like stretched text. Designers. Let's all stay calm. I know. That looks like... that looks... This is the one person in the world who has used this feature here. I mean, to be fair, out of all the different cases and places that you could use that kind of stretch the text thing, you probably get away with it here because there's just so much going on. It's kind of like, it doesn't bother me in the same way. If that was done in a logo, like, you know, I would probably legit freak out. But because of the way it's done here, and the whole design is quite sort of, it's quite chaotic, isn't it? There's a lot going on. You kind of get away with it. But that needs to be lined up to the top. There's no getting away from that. And this O touching the graphic, just please, can we nudge that over to the left a bit? Just give it a bit more spacing. Yeah, just maybe a little bit more spacing for sure. Same with this one here, actually. You know, it's like, because of the type of graphic it is and there's so many different elements, and it's quite illustrative, I think you get away with it more. But is there any downside to kind of just making this top and bottom space more consistent and just moving the lettering down a few pixels? Is there a downside to that? No, it's just going to make it look more balanced. Yeah, just do it, basically. You know, I get it. I get it sometimes, you know. It's sort of like, you know, sometimes the feedback or the making things consistent or the, you know, tightening up the spacing might mess around and interfere with the design or the designer's vision, for example. But if you can make these sort of tweaks, like by nudging that down, maybe make this orange box a bit smaller, just add a bit more breathing room, make this kind of margin around the corner consistent rather than kind of hugging the right side and then hugging this dude's head. If you make those tweaks, does it ruin the creative vision? No, probably not. Does it make it just a bit more just pleasing to the eye, balanced, better spaced? Well, yeah. And so to me, it's kind of, at least with my brain, it's like a logical, like, why would you not do that? Does that, like, I'd be curious to know what you guys think to that. If that's just a me thing, or are you looking at this as well and going, that spacing just, it could be tighter and it should be tighter. Massimo Vignelli said a designer only needs 12 typefaces in their entire life. Ha! Is that true? I could probably narrow down my use of typefaces to 12 if I had to. Oh, thanks, Poppy. I mean, I didn't design it, but sure, I'll take the credit. This also looks like Takeshi Murakami art. Oh, interesting. Okay, this one here, this is by Sema, who I don't think is here today, but Sema, if you are watching this afterwards, hello. I think, first of all, with this, there's a lot going on. I'm not entirely sure what this is for because I can't understand the language, but we've got contact information and I think that's an @ So a social handle, a business name here. My favorite part of this are the illustrations. I love these illustrations. And I think actually what I would do personally is, I think the logo is a bit too much. You've got the sweets icon. It's way too much. So the logo needs to be reworked. Even if it was just this Secursin, however you say that. Even if it was just that word in like a playful font. Not like this. Damn, why did you do that? Oh, God, I can't design with a trackpad. Oh no. Why is he not stopping? So yeah, I would redesign that logo, even if it's just picking a fun, playful font with rounded corners, maybe a bit of boldness to it. Remove all the candy sweet, this kind of sweet graphic around the edge, and focus on these lollipop graphics at the top. Blow those up, make those bigger. Nice clean font. The colors in the lollipops could match the colors in the letters to make it extra fun, because they are quite fun colors. It feels like there's just too many different styles coming on. I quite like the background, actually. The background feels quite fun. I'm not crazy of the banding, though. You see all these textures and things? I mean, that texture shouldn't be there for a start. It's called artifacting. And you just get, yeah, all these kind of broken bits of sort of aliasing, and it just... What I would do is, personally, I would create yourself a really nice gradient. Ooh, what's this one I've got here? Oh, I've got a preset gradient. Whoa. Maybe not this one per se, but as you can see, you can create some really nice gradients and use lots of different colors. And you could recreate that background from scratch, even using the brush tool. You know, you could create a nice soft feathered brush, and you could kind of... Not like that. You could brush in some blue over here. And then you could brush in some pink over there. Obviously do this properly. And then brush in some of this down here. And obviously that looks awful, but then if you Gaussian blur it all together, you can kind of blur those separation lines a little bit more. There's loads of different ways you can kind of do this stuff. In fact, I did a Photoshop tutorial recently about how to create these beautiful abstract backgrounds in Photoshop. And the techniques in that you could definitely use for this. In terms of the phone number as well, I would again pick a simpler font, have it white so it stands off against the color, and remove this kind of heart sweet graphic thing and the banner graphic thing. All of these design elements here, the kind of these ones, it feels like over designed. There's too many different design elements. So creatively, I think it looks even like this is a graphic. The heart, this is a really well drawn heart. The heart looks really nice. You got the graphic here. If this was like an icon or something, or even more an illustration, it would look pretty clean and pretty nice. But as a container for contact information, underneath a banner in a different style, underneath a logo that's Candyland overkill, I think it's just a bit too much. So in summary, I would recreate the background with lots of color because it looks really great. I would take the logo here, and if you can, perhaps recreate that just in a fun, simple, playful font, and just play around with the color and the lettering rather than kind of introducing too many different design elements. Recreate these graphics if they're not already. I know a bit of pixelation here, so draw these in Illustrator. And make them vector, and then make them nice and big, and make them a feature of what this is. And yeah, I think this is a good case of less is more, you know. Oh, it means sweets in Turkish. Oh, hey, Sema. Perfect timing. So yeah, that's what I would do, is I would kind of make the illustrations a real kind of centerpiece here, together with the really nice background and a fun, playful logo. And then just, yeah, keep the contact information down here simple, just really simple. Just kind of have it there down the bottom. And then this kind of, this text could even be bigger as well. Whatever this text says here, I assume that's kind of the messaging. Have that a bit larger. I've kind of got an idea in my head, but it's kind of hard to visualize that. Right, 2 more, and then I've got to run for parents' evening. Photo manipulation. As a concept, this looks really fun. We've got this glass. We've got the water coming out of it. We've got a ship and some birds and the rock. The rock feels a bit random. What I would do personally is I would turn the glass 90 degrees. So I would have the glass upright like that. I think generally that's the first thing I would do, because then you can contain the water in the glass and have the ship and the birds coming out the top. You could then have the rocks at the bottom of the glass. Then you've got the sea and the waves. Then you've got the boat. Yes, that is a boat. And then you've got the birds here. So I think compositionally, if that's even a word, it would work better rotated the other way. Whereas at the moment, it's like floating in the middle of nowhere. Then you could place that glass on a surface if you wanted to, so it feels like it's all less floating in space. I think here where you've got the kind of if you did want to keep it like this, that's fine. Where you've got the fall off here, don't just use a soft brush and fade it out, because it will never look good. What I would do is try and get a water brush if you can. So you can get different brushes. I don't think I've got one installed right now. Flower, that's the best I've got. So what, I mean, you could actually use that, to be fair. So take the warsk, take the water. Warsk? What is the warsk? That's not even a word, Dan. You could use this actually, even though it's a flower brush. Take the water or the waterfall, add a layer mask, and then add some of this in. And what it will do is it will create these kind of splash effects, and it will look like the water is actually trailing off more realistically, rather than just kind of brushing it with a soft brush. The rock feels a bit random, and I think you need to work on kind of where the flat ocean waves kind of meet the waterfall. So we need to warp that and blend those together a bit more seamlessly. So the water here kind of curves into the waterfall. Edit, transform, and warp. That is your friend there on that layer. Yeah, the water here needs to look like this part of the glass should be faded a lot, because the water needs to look like it's actually coming out of the glass rather than behind it. I think the ship could probably do with a bit of shadowing in the water. And yeah, bird's quite cool. I think probably a bit too big. Maybe scale them down and have a small cluster above the boat. But yeah, lots of little things really. But I think first of all, do what we did with Dilshan's. Well, we didn't do anything, but with Dilshan's work at the beginning, you could kind of see the different images all cut out, and they were placed in the right position, and they were all kind of there. And then once everything was in the right place, then kind of you work on the retouching. But I think if you do rotate the cup 90 degrees so it's upright, I think that would be easier to create something like this. Or you could do it in a snow globe or something like that. So try and find a sphere or create a sphere and then contain your world, your ships, your birds, your ocean inside that sphere. Then you don't have to worry about kind of this sort of faded out fall off down here, and instead you could use the brushes to create wave splashes and wave foam, kind of as if the water's splashing up around the boat. So you kind of do it down here, so you have it kind of, you know, splashing up over the side of the boat, something like that. Yeah, that could work pretty well. Obviously that's awful, but do it with masks and things, and that's a really good way that you can kind of create splashes and trail off your water. And lastly, we have a logo, Yesma. Again, no context, but it is by Sulabha Surendran. Oh, you're welcome, Sema. Thank you for reviewing my design, and thank you to everyone who commented. Hopefully that was helpful. It's difficult because I've got like a vision for that one in my head, but obviously I'd need to sit down and kind of actually do it. But yeah, I love the I think the sweets graphic, and I think the word for the logo, you could really kind of make something more of that. And I think less is more as well. Poppy's telling me about parents' evening now. My goodness, I'm running out of time. Thank you for stopping by, Ben. I'll catch you in the next one. One of my designs is there. Excellent, Zach. Was that the flower one? Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I love reviewing everyone's work, and thank you to everyone for so many great submissions. Right. Yeah, limited context. So I don't really know what this is for. It's an interesting treatment, though. I do like it, the way they've got the gradient at the start, and then the rest of the word is just white. It does work as one color, which is good. Maybe we could keep that width consistent all the way around. It kind of tapers out at the end there. Maybe we could just do that and keep the width. That's what I would do personally, is keep the width the same all the way around and then match that same width there. Yeah, it's interesting. What is this? Is it Esma or Yesma? I don't know if that's... Is that meant to be like a Y or is it a check mark? I'm seeing Yesma. Oh, cheers, Reese. Catch you later, man. Have fun at parents' evening. Yeah, so if that was a Y, I would probably nudge it to the left and just try and get a bit more of the Y in there, maybe. Paul Dixon says maybe both. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, I guess a lot of customers, would be looking at it without context as well. So I guess it would need to make sense to them. That's a tough one, yeah. Like, because I'm seeing this little bit in the bottom left corner, my brain's telling me it's a Y. But then we've got one over here as well, which could be like the tail on the A, but it's a weird one. So that would be a question mark. I'm not sure about that. That would be a bit of a question mark. But yeah, I do quite like the gradient though. That is a really nice gradient. And like I say, it does work in one color. I'm just not... Oh, Poppy's reading Yesma. Yeah, I know. I'm just not totally sold on the execution. I'm just sort of looking at it and like it should be clear if it's Yesma or Esma. It should be clear. And I think I'm not sure, and I think a few people aren't sure. So yeah, not sure about that one. But the execution of it's I'd say pretty good. I think the kerning, particularly, not that one. The kerning needs a little bit of work, particularly between the S and the M. Got a load of space there. So that gap definitely needs kind of tightening up. But yeah, I think generally that's my biggest kind of hang up on this one is the Y or the check, the Yesma, Esma, which one it is. Quinton says that's a tough one. Yeah, it is. It's even tougher when you don't have context. Although, like I say, it's probably quite good because in the real world, customers don't have that context. They should be able to look at it and easily understand it. And so if they can't, then, that to me would be a problem. But anyway, I really do have to run now because I've got parents' evening. So just before I go, for anyone who missed it earlier, this is my Adobe Illustrator masterclass. It will teach you everything I know about Adobe Illustrator. And if you do enjoy these, we'll come back to those ones next week. I've got a donkey and something else. So if you do enjoy these feedback sessions and you want feedback on your work, with the Adobe Illustrator masterclass, you do get access to a private student community. And one of the perks of that is you can direct message me anytime with any questions about design, or you can send me your work and I'll give you direct feedback. So, basically students get access to this type of stream 7 days a week whenever they like. So that's one of the perks, and of course you get the course and everything else that comes with it. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for joining the stream. It's been an absolute blast as always, and have a fantastic week. And I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, wish me the best of luck with Poppy at Parents' Evening. Have a good week, guys. Catch you later.